Hey, it's James Follows Rights and Resources, hashtag how I got custody. I got a few videos on YouTube where I talk about lawyers, how I deal with lawyers, the most common rule of professional conduct that lawyers violate. And I'm not sure if I have one specifically about judges and their obligation. I throw the code of judicial conduct into some videos here and there sometimes. So I'm just going to devote this video to the code of judicial conduct for judges. So every state has a code of judicial conduct that kind of pretty much adopts the federal code. Same with the rules of professional conduct for attorneys. They're really similar, or if not exactly the same. Every one of you should read the code of judicial conduct, the rules of professional conduct for attorneys, the oath of an attorney, and Civil Rule 11. Even if you don't have the, I show on YouTube how you can find the equivalent of Civil Rule 11 in your state. Most states have a Civil Rule 11, some don't. California is CCCP 128.7. I just found one in another state today. I forget which one it was, today or yesterday. So, but let's just stick with the Code of Judicial Conduct. When you read it, you need to read the preamble, which is the introduction to it. And it basically says how important our justice system is to a society. It's an integral part of it. When the public's confidence in the judicial system is shattered, then they say our democracy falls apart. It's really a constitutional republic. Democracy just sets up majority rule, and you could basically have fascism or just not everybody. In a constitutional republic, everybody is represented, so everybody has a say-so, technically. We're already getting into communism, fascism, and stuff like that right now, but ideally on paper, that's the way that it's structured and set up. But to the point, the preamble says that when the public's confidence is eroded, then society crumbles, is basically what it says. So a judge has a duty to maintain the public's confidence in the judicial system. That's where they put bad guys away. That's where they resolve disputes and hold people accountable. So if the court system is screwed up, so is society. And that's actually what we have right now. But it's a good argument to make in court. The judge has a duty of care to maintain the public's confidence in the judicial system. And duty of care means an inherent responsibility, which is, similar to, examples of a duty of care. A grocery store has a duty of care to put up a wet floor sign after they mop the floor for obvious reasons. They have an ethical responsibility or duty to society or public to make sure nobody slips and falls in their store. Now, there's no law against not putting up a wet floor sign that I know of. It's just an inherent responsibility, and you could get sued really bad for it if you screw that up or drop the ball on that. But then you get into the Code of Judicial Conduct, where a judge is supposed to expedite or expeditiously process a case and not delay it and drag it out forever. That's what happens a lot of times in court cases. That documentary Divorce Corp, there's one lady in there, she said she was married for like 6 months and she's been getting a divorce for 7 years. Her attorney should be going in there and say, you have a duty of care to expedite this case and put it put trial on the docket. But what happens is these judges are a bunch of numbnuts, numbskull, airheaded, dumbass zombies who come out of law school, and their law firm teaches how we do things around here. And sometimes they don't even read the Constitution or study that stuff, or they forget if they did study it in law school. And they just learn how to get by and make a bunch of money and how things work in family court. Not, just like politicians. They don't listen to their constituents or their oath or their obligation to the people who voted for them. They go in and do stuff the way that they've always done it. Politicians got tips from their buddies on insider trading. Politicians are listening to the lobbyists who give them money and wine and dine them and passing laws for them. So, big pharma, big oil, all these elite groups of rich folks get laws passed to help them. There's politicians who they pass laws to make sure that their retirement is real cushy. You know, in California, it's rumored that Nancy Pelosi and a couple other, Gavin Newsom and a couple other people are all in the same family or connected, and they run the whole thing. You know, there's legitimate argument and evidence out there that most of the presidents in America, you know, are all related or in the same bloodline to a point. With the exception of a few outsiders, I guess. So, I remember in the 90s people talking about, a pastor in my church was like, you know, this stuff is rigged. They know who the president is before they even get started. So, all of a sudden, everybody's shocked when somebody says, oh, how dare you say that the elections are rigged. Anyway, these judges act like politicians. They were lawyers. They learned how to do stuff right out of law school by the law firm that taught them that. And so they practice law a certain way, and then they become a judge. They never argued or debated the rules of evidence or a judge's duty or whatever. And they're all in the same club. They say, we can't piss off the judge or anything like that, when their duty and their allegiance, their duty of care and their allegiance is to their client. But they're not used to doing that. Since an attorney is not used to doing that as an attorney, when they become a judge, they don't have any regard for that. It's actually a popularity contest. I actually went to a court hearing, and this judge in Tacoma, Washington, his name is Chushkoff, and he ran for Supreme Court. There's a lawyer who got in there and said, oh, nice to see you, Judge. I'm glad to see you off the criminal calendar. He goes, yeah, those cases are more simple. You know, the criminal cases are more simple, but these are more fun. He's back on the civil calendar for civil lawsuits. And I'm thinking, this perverted subhuman piece of shit, this stuff is fun to watch people. And then the guy was presenting some settlement for some lawsuit, some big corporation, somebody, like 16 people were suing a big corporation, or, oh, I think it was that outdoors, one of those national brands of outdoors stores. Anyway, they were sitting there yucking it up and laughing and giggling and stuff like that. And then some pro se got up there, and then he said something, and the judge was like, look, son, you can't do this, you can't do that, go back and redo it and this and that. And he goes, oh, I thought I would. And they were being all nice. And then I got up there for something I was dealing with, and it had to do with this lawsuit I had against this chick. And then the judge was like, she hadn't answered, and I was going to do a default. And the judge was like, this proof of service, it doesn't tell me that she was served. I said, the process server said they saw her. And they're like, well, the process server doesn't describe her with height and weight and all this other stuff. How do I know that she's seen her? They said, well, she says that she saw her through the glass door. And he goes, glass doors? There's no such thing as a glass door. Now he's sitting here testifying and writing. I said, I've been to her place. I've seen she has a mostly glass door. And then I said, you're supposed to presume what a process server says and believe a declaration or a sworn statement on its face. And then he said something else, and I said, well, where's the law on that? He said, that's just the way that it is. And he's like, you know what? You're being real obtuse right now. And if you keep it, just keep it up. You better watch it. And all I did was just question him and make him answer and stuff. And so I got what I got what I needed to get out of the hearing. But along the way, he didn't like me saying anything because everybody else was sitting there worshiping him and yucking it up with him. And I'm going to do a video on this guy because he's a, arrogant subhuman prick who placed children with a child abusing mom and a boyfriend who attempted to murder the father and stuff. And there's all kinds of corruption in his court. But I told him that he can't do anything without legal authority, and he has to base stuff off of the law, and he can't make up his own new standard. And he didn't like that. He thought I was going to go in there and bow down and worship him and whatever. And that's how a lot of judges are. But the Code of Judicial Conduct says they're supposed to expedite cases. They're supposed to treat everybody with respect. So if you could go in there and say, look, I'm a taxpayer who paid you, who voted you. So you supposedly voted in, they're mostly appointed. And I paid you, you serve us. You can make decisions in my life, but you have to follow the Code of Judicial Conduct, and you have to treat me with respect. You have to expedite this case. You have to do this and have to do that. And then if he has a problem with that, then you write a complaint to the Commission on Judicial Conduct, whoever's in charge of that. But you need to know the CJC